We are back with more NBA coverage, and to start things out, last week it would be announced that Damian Lillard would actually become an assistant general manager for Weber State's college basketball team. Now, obviously that is his alma mater, and he played there prior to getting drafted in 2012. And he's not the first NBA player to have that kind of connection to their former school. Obviously, Stephen Curry has become the assistant general manager at Davidson at this point. Trae Young has taken a similar role at Oklahoma, and a lot of other players over the past few seasons, with a lot of the different changes in the NIL landscape, have now taken on these responsibilities. They are going to, again, advise a lot of these general managers on potential moves for coaches and players, and in some cases for some of these schools, they're a little known. Like Weber State is in Utah. They are going to be dominated by other programs in that area alone, like BYU. Obviously, they have AJ Dybanta right now. And then you also have Utah in that same area. So Weber State is naturally going to see a little bit less attention, normally at least. But with Damian Lillard being a sort of face of that program, that could actually attract more recruits and help them get the resources they need to have elite recruiting classes down the line and put together a solid roster. So it's not an unprecedented move for an NBA player to commit to it. And honestly, I think that Damian Lillard would be able to do a fine job. He's got a ton of experience in the game, and honestly, going to a school like that builds a kind of mindset that can't really be matched elsewhere. He already possessed it anyways. And that was just further realized in this little-known Big Sky program. Like, you have rarely, since Damian Lillard has moved on from there, you haven't really heard a lot of buzz around this program. And honestly, when you look at their seasons outside of them, it does make a little sense. I mean, when you look at the competition in the Big Sky, it's not necessarily going to wow people or get national attention like other Power 5, Power 4 now conferences would get. But still, it seems like over the past decade plus following his departure from the school, they've had a decent enough team. Like, the year after he left, they had a 30-7 record under Coach Randy Rahe. Although it was unsuccessful because they didn't even get a bid into March Madness. In the 14 years or so following his departure from the school, though, 13 and counting, I should say, they've had two different March Madness runs. They had one in 13-14 after going 19-12 in the regular season. Probably got in very, very late in the Selection Sunday process after, I guess, securing like a conference bid. And they actually made it to the second round before losing. Then in 2015-16, they actually had a 26-9 record in that time and ended up losing in the first round. So they haven't really been a team that's contended for March Madness all that much, but they've been making a good amount of noise. They've had multiple 20-win seasons, especially under the guidance of Rahe. But after a 21-12 season in 21-22, they did decide to move on from him and shift to a coaching tenure under a person by the name of Eric Duft. In that time, they've gone 18-15 in 2022. They went 20-12 in 23-24, and last year was one of their worst years in pretty much a decade, sitting at just 12-22 overall with a 5-13 record in the Big Sky Conference. Now, I do not really follow their program. So I'm not necessarily sure of whether or not he's still there, but I will say that if they do make a kind of decision like that, Damian Lillard would be coming in at a premier time, honestly. A very pristine time of potential transition. Like, he'd automatically be able to get to it right off the rip. Because, again, obviously he's hurt, so he's going to be spending time resting. But at the same time, if you need him to, like, fill you in on some things, I'm sure that he could get around to that instantly and be of help in some way. Because I don't know how much of a leash they've given him, but again, if he is still the coach of this team next season, this is probably the last chance he's going to get. Because I don't think you can afford to be in his spot and go that badly in a season. Again, you cannot perform that badly with the roster that you have. And again, all that can go hand in hand with having Damian Lillard at the side of the person in charge of operations for the team, in terms of roster construction, in terms of hirings and the coaching staff and other positions. Like, who better to at least guide you in that than your best all-time player? Malik Beasley's entire situation has just taken a very, very awkward turn. Because on Wednesday, according to multiple reports, he would actually be evicted from his Detroit-based apartment complex. And it's like, why in the world is that happening? A man in Malik Beasley, who was literally up for a $42 million contract, is somehow getting evicted from an apartment in the home city. That is just very, very odd. And it is even weirder to an extent, because all of this, the gambling stuff, this case now, there is just an apparent pattern of poor spending habits and a wide-scale mismanagement of money on Beasley's end. Like, all of this just opened up a can of worms for some reason. And honestly, when you understand just how deep he really is into some of this shit, you can understand why they are pursuing this and why contract negotiations for him have been on hold. Because this is insane. That is exactly the situation that I was detailing a couple of videos back with the Arenas and Morris Sr. situation, about how some of these players operate when it comes to just taking in these massive amounts of money. It's insane. But to focus on this specifically, a quote right here from ESPN states that Beasley's landlord sued him twice this year in Michigan's 36th District Court for a total of $21,505 in unpaid rent, the records show. The first case was dismissed in March, but the court issued an eviction order in the second suit for $7,355 after Beasley failed to respond. Like, seriously? Why is it that you think that you're invincible just because you're Malik Beasley? Like, if you're in a situation where you're renting out an apartment, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that if you're an NBA player, but you gotta understand that it is something you consistently have to keep up with. And in those moments, you need to make sure you have enough capital saved up so that you can handle those priorities first and foremost. I guess Beasley found himself in a situation where he was literally so hell-bent on blowing all of his money on so much other shit that he might not have had enough, by his standards, to cover these costs. Like, of course, I can't say that they're not expensive. But if you are putting your money in the right stuff and also knowing when and how much to consistently be saving up for this monthly payment, this would be a non-issue. And yet you're letting all of this pile up repeatedly. You're lucky that they even dismissed the original case in March, because they were trying to give you a little bit of leeway and be nice about it, I guess. But you're going to consistently deny it and then not even tend to any of it at all. Like, it's just supposed to blow over and they're just supposed to forget about the problem at hand. That's not how it works. So you can't be surprised that they upped the ante on you and gave you essentially an ultimatum. Either you give us our money or you get the hell out. And I guess, again, I don't know what his motivations are for not responding. Maybe he genuinely didn't care. Maybe he didn't have enough to cover it at all. I don't know what could have possibly been going through his mind. But by the time we get to this point, he still hadn't done anything to solve the issue. And he didn't want to play ball with him. So they kicked him out. That's very unfortunate that he's facing eviction. But he can't really be surprised by that. If you're going to... Because I feel like in that situation, you've got to be well equipped to handle it. He had to have had some form of payment ready to go specifically for it. And again, either you're not giving it to him at all, you don't care, or you don't have it. And it's like, at that point, all they're really worried about is seeing that payment dished out to them, no matter what it takes at that point, to be honest. And regardless of what was going on, because you didn't have it ready in time, I guess, they made a pretty harsh decision, to say the least. Again, you don't want to see anybody just being out like that. But Malik Beasley, in this case, with the kind of money he's making, I guess he could settle for other temporary locations of residence. And that still, when you think about it that way, is not a way to be living at all. Even if you're an NBA player in this case, that ain't no way to live, just consistently having a nomadic lifestyle like that. Because what's stopping him from going to another place, per se, renting out an area and then not being able to keep up with it for a consistent amount of time? So, I mean, that's just certainly horrible. It's not the only thing that Malik Beasley has had to worry about here. Because the way these contracts work is that, again, a lot of the money can be guaranteed, but in a player like Malik Beasley's case, you're definitely going to see less and less of that money up front. A lot of it will be dished out at the end of a particular season or on the back end of your contract if you're a role player. That's typically how it goes. So, even with him making a pretty solid amount of money, it's nothing really compared to the superstars in the league, and it shouldn't be. But that should make it so that you are even wiser about what you're wrapping your investments up in, if you're in Malik Beasley's shoes here. And it's become increasingly clear that he just has not. Because not only do you have the stuff with this unpaid rent, not only do you have the allegations about the gambling, but this man, I kid you not, owes everybody. And it's even to the point where I was watching a microphone video, well, Flight Mike video about it, I should say. He has been partnered up for years with a loan company just to ensure that he can be covered in a lot of these cases, because he can't bring his own money out of pocket to handle these things, potentially. It's like, again, you are in relatively good hands, and you still feel as though you need to get loans from these different companies just to survive in that economy. That is crazy work. But he literally owes everybody. And some of this shit is just ridiculous. But according to this quote right here from Sports Illustrated, it states that investigation, which has resulted in no charges thus far, has invited significant scrutiny into his personal finances, with Robert Snow of the Detroit News reporting on July 1st that Beasley owed money to a celebrity barber, a dentist, a landlord, a lender, and a marketing firm. What? Like, again, why the hell are some of these even issues that are surfacing? Like, it is just like, damn. Again, a lender, again, why are you even trusting any person in that regard when you should be able to cover these things yourself without that supposed assistance? Because again, there are loan sharks everywhere. Same with a landlord. Like, yeah, you're supposed to be paying them if this is a renting situation, I guess. But even in cases like that, you can't always trust them so deeply. You chose to bind to the deal, though. You knew what you were signing up for. And you know it's going to become an issue when you're not paying them their money. So of course a lender and a landlord in this case are going to come after you. But what business do you have not paying a dentist for their services? That's something that should be happening anyways. You think that you could really get over that? You really thought you could overcome that? Like, that's just not smart. That is not a smart way to go about it. And then the celebrity barber is a really interesting one. You can't just go to a regular barbershop and get your hair cut, probably for far less money than this one-time meetup. Like, I don't care if this person is a celebrity or not. You barely know this person. And they barely know how to deal with your hair at all. Yet you're just going to spend an exorbitant amount of money on that. It's highly unnecessary. And if you were in a spot where you felt as though you had little in the first place, you thought that that was the move to make? To go out and get a celebrity barber? For a legit one-time occasion. I don't even know the details about this person. But the person was probably just scamming the shit out of you. I'm not gonna lie. Whatever type of haircut this person was trying to pull off, any regular barber could probably do with enough training. And they aren't going to ask for anywhere near the same amount of money I would think that this person was trying to get, if this is a notable element of his entire, I guess, financial situation. So you can see, when looking at all of that, why his personal situation would be scrutinized. Because it's just borderline. It is just unimaginable to think that you are finding yourself in this spot as an NBA player. And yet at the same time, with what I detailed again, you get these players spending their money on the wildest things rather quickly without actually putting much of anything away for security, for savings, and for insurance down the line, so that when they do, and if they do, fall on hard times, they always have something that they can turn back to. A player in Malik Beasley's case, apparently, is just going to waste pretty much all of it immediately before it's all even coming in the first place. Meaning that you're probably in deeper financial trouble than we think. Because he has made a good amount of money in his NBA career, but he has yet to see it all. Because some of these are a part of current deals at this point that just simply haven't come through yet. Yes, he's got some of that money fully guaranteed, but a fair amount of it is coming off of the backdrop. You haven't seen it yet, and you're already in danger of losing it all because of shit like this. He's not the only NBA player to be involved in anything related to gambling controversies, and he's not the only player to be involved in just terrible financial situations and general, or I guess, scandals in that regard as well. Like, obviously, you have Arenas and Morris Sr. dealing with this last week, but you have multiple retired NBA players who have found themselves just scamming people for some reason, just to get a quick buck out of them. And then, not to mention as well, the case surrounding 20 different former NBA players after it was found that they all participated in this scheme relating to the, I guess, different expenditures around the COVID pandemic and just fucking up people's financial profile that way by claiming, I guess, different benefits from the NBA's pension in relation to it, I believe. And as a result, all of these people are facing prison time. A few are serving it right now, if not all of them. Like, the fact that you are that desperate for money is wild. But I guess, again, some people just genuinely don't understand what comes with the territory. You know, they see a huge paycheck, and for some of these people, it's the first large sum of money they've ever had in their entire lives. But rather than do some of the wiser things with their money, maybe because they were never taught at a younger age to do so, they just go on these huge spending sprees, get all of these fancy things, all of these designer clothes, all of these sports cars and stuff like that, all of these expensive houses that they can't really maintain when it comes to, paying for all of the different services that come with these houses and things like that. And then in just a few years, or as soon as they're retired, they don't even have a dime to their name. And they settle for doing some of the most outlandish stuff possible, reaching illegal territory just to find a way to get some of that money back. And it's horrible that cycle continues to repeat. It's because it just makes things look even worse for people dealing with this situation, including Malik Beasley right now. Like, you owe that many different people money, and you are heavily partnered with a loan company. How are they supposed to consistently dish this out to you when you aren't even able to pay off these other things? You're going to be able to pay them back? You're already in trouble with one, so what's stopping you from getting in financial trouble with another at this point? Unless you clean up whatever it is that you're doing. So it's a truly horrible case in his regard. You hope that, obviously, when it comes to the gambling stuff, he's not found guilty on that. And that he actually did not have anything to do with this at all. But even if he's not guilty of, the gambling somehow, his situation in general is just one that should breed a lot of caution for younger athletes. Because, again, a person who is raking in a serviceable amount of money on a consistent basis should not be anywhere near facing eviction at this time. He's still a fairly young player at this point. And he's apparently, according to this article, out in Europe for some reason, doing whatever else with this money that he believes that he has in the pocket, and yet still has to go to other third parties just to make sure that they can cover those expenses for him in case things get too out of hand. It's just a weird situation overall. You'd think that he would be taking a situation like this far more seriously. And there's no reason for you to be moving around like that when they are actively looking into you on a federal level when it comes to your gambling. And when you have this many expenses to cover back in the States to all of these different people. Like, if you really don't have it, if you're really out of this money, what the hell are you traveling around Europe for? And I'm sure that some of these other people are very much seeing him move around all these different parts if he's posting all of this on social media. All it takes is for you to mess around with the wrong person when it comes to not giving them their money. And yet you're literally just flaunting something that either you totally have and are refusing to give over to these people, or you're flaunting something that you absolutely don't have while just relying on all these other sources to help you present this sort of facade to people. And they're going to believe whenever you confront them again, if you choose to at all, that you have it. Then you're probably going to get clowned or something when they figure that you truly don't. And that is just a tricky situation to be in if you're Malik Beasley in this situation. So you would hope that he can come out of this with a positive, but it is hard to see. And, based on some of what we're hearing, I mean, this could get even more out of hand for him, honestly. Could get a whole lot worse before it gets any better. And that just would not be great for Beasley whatsoever. Because his career is on the line with this. Like, if he's found guilty in any aspect of this, his career would effectively be done. His time with the Pistons would certainly be over. So for his sake, he better hope that he's all good. Because there's just no way, bro. Straight up. The Celtics would sign Joe Mazzulla to a contract extension. There weren't any specific details on how long the contract is lasting or how much money it's worth. But, I mean, it speaks for itself at this point. It is just a testament to how that fateful decision by Brad Stevens to move into a VP of basketball operations role and allow Mazzulla to take over at the head coaching position paid off. Like, that one decision just changed the entire course of that Celtics franchise. And they found pretty great success. Mazzulla for a while was able to maintain a lot of what Brad Stevens was doing because they consistently been conference finals contenders. And he's largely continued that trend. Obviously, last season, Tatum goes down with an injury in the postseason in the Knicks series, and they end up losing that series in 6, allowing the Knicks to get to the conference finals. But still, when they've been a healthy squad, they have been nothing short of successful. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have just continued to be a pretty elite duo in that, I guess, front court, since they're both wings. And they've continued to have success. Across his tenure with the team, Mazzulla is 182-64. That is domination, to say the least. And also, again, in 2024, literally just last year, they won an NBA Finals. If, things went according to plan, maybe there's a chance that they got back there again. They are very primed to do so. They still have a very elite roster, but again, obviously, retooling was in order. And this allows Mazzulla to have a pivotal influence in whatever they choose to do next. There is a mutual understanding that this next season for Boston is not really going to harbor any sort of potential for a finals appearance or maybe even a conference finals appearance. But if they can come out of this season with a good record, and at least show that they are still a competitive roster in the Eastern Conference, that'll be a successful season for them. Joe Mazzulla is in for the ride for sure, even though this will be a detour from how he has normally executed and performed with this team under his tenure. But he has proven through his coaching style and also the quote-unquote antics you might think he has at this point. He's proven to be a pretty just hard-nosed, persevering head coach consistently, who is going to stop at nothing to make sure that his guys, no matter who is out there, are in the best position possible to succeed. That's what you want in a head coach. And yes, they were getting that under Ime Udoka. But Mazzulla hasn't necessarily found himself in some of the same off-the-field circumstances, which does also help his case. Like, his defense is just very resemblant of that gritty nature, as they've consistently been a top defense in the league to this point. But the game plan does change in one core aspect, because his offense is so reliant on three-point shooting. You're missing a lot of key players at this point, with the potential for some others to be moved. I mean, there have been constant rumors surrounding Al Horford, who is still there at this point. But with all of that loss of talent, does he choose to change his game plan up a little bit? Does the focus shift? Like, Peyton Pritchard's obviously still going to be there as, I guess, a sixth man. But when it comes to your starting lineup, is a consistent pace and space offense going to be the system that they run? Given the personnel that they'll have, I don't know if it would be the best thing in the world. Yes, you have some people who can space, like Chris Boucher obviously just coming in. Jaylen Brown can still shoot a decent three ball. But, I don't know, I feel like that aspect of their team would have to shift if you're Mazzulla in this situation. You just aren't afforded that same luxury that you would have, honestly, if Jason Tatum was in the lineup. Like, even with them plummeting completely in three-point efficiency down the stretch of the season and in some of these other high-leverage games, you would trust Tatum a whole hell of a lot with chucking up as many threes as he had compared to a lot of the other players on that roster. Like, Tatum is a purebred tough shot taker and maker. So he does, jack up a lot of wild looking three-pointers, but a lot of them tend to go in. So no matter how crazy they are, you can live with him doing that. I don't know if I can say that about anyone else on this roster, even Peyton Pritchard. In trying to treat any one of them like they are Jason Tatum in this situation would very much hurt the basketball team compared to actually helping them. You want players to step up in their roles. You don't want them turning into players that they are nowhere near like at all. Like, they have to be able to make those adjustments within their specific play style and help the team that way. Because that's what would truly make them a formidable opponent in the Eastern Conference. Trying to copy all of Jason Tatum's signature moves and stuff like that if you're other players on the squad ain't gonna help you. The only person that should even be attempting to do that is Jaylen Brown, because he's obviously right on the same par with Jason Tatum as a co-superstar on that team. But if you try to get other people assuming that kind of responsibility, that kind of burden, it will not bode well, and the Celtics will have a horrible season. I think Mazzulla, again, is pretty straightforward, direct as well. So if that's how he feels that things need to go, he'll certainly let his guys hear that out. He will tell them straight up, And the second they try to deviate from that, he's not going to show himself going ballistic, but he will light their asses up. You can guarantee that. Nonetheless, it is a great move for them to extend him. I would still, after this point, want to know exactly what the details are around the contract, but they made the right decision. You know, they've already reached the pinnacle of success one time, and there's always a fighting chance that when they're healthy, they can do it again. Mazzulla would be the right guy, for them at least, to lead them to that point once more. But that'll do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.